Have you ever noticed that Spotify doesn't have their own sound? We experience such a brilliant app. I was going to find my phone then, but I'm using it. We experience such a brilliant app in terms of sharing audio and sharing sound, but you don't really have a sound experience that is Spotify's. Well, today we are going to talk about creating the sound of Spotify. My name's George Holliday. Me and my co-founder have a production company called Hear Me Out, and we create sonic branding for brands. Sonic branding is anywhere a brand uses sound, and we believe there's many different ways that brands can use sound and create a journey between every step. Imagine one of your clients goes all the way through a process of experiencing you from social media right the way through to purchasing on your website. There is a journey that can tie all of that together, and that journey is with sound. And that leads me to today's video. So some opening thoughts. Have you ever noticed that when you turn Spotify on, it doesn't sound like anything? You open the app, imagine like when you turn on Netflix, da-doom, we hear that straight away. That's the first experience we have. And then when you're flicking through, we have like dun, 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 you hear these little sounds. There's an experience that you're having there as you're choosing a film. Emotionally, those sounds connect with you after time when you build trust with this platform. And now the sound of Netflix signals the start of movie time at home, or it gets you excited to sit and relax and enjoy an evening, for example. But Spotify doesn't have that. So you open the app, it's silent. You tap through playlists, it's silent. And for me, that's crazy. Like for a sound company, they've got no sound. So today, I want to imagine what it looks like if they did have sound. And we're gonna create a plan of how we would go through the process, all the way from creating a strategy, figuring out the demographic and the values, and how we translate that into sound values, which then creates the sound. And we're quite unique as a company with Hear Me Out because Luke and myself, Luke's the co-founder as well, we are both the music producers that create the sound of brands as well. And I need to highlight, sonic branding is anywhere a brand has sound. So we are a sonic branding agency. We're a production company at the core. Anywhere a brand has sound, we create the strategy and we also create the music, which is quite rare in the industry. So the missed opportunity. Spotify is the biggest audio platform. They've got 600 million users at the time that I'm recording this video, yet they sound silent. No audio cue when you open the app, no branded sound on any of their content on the socials to create the journey. So they could own the idea of how discovery of new music sounds. And imagine if every interaction had a sonic touch that felt unmistakably sonic. That's Spotify, not sonic. I'm used to saying sonic so much. So the concept of sound, of the sound of discovery, Spotify's whole thing is discovering new music, new artists, new playlists, and you open it to find something new or to listen to music you already know. But ultimately, its biggest asset is you can find new music that you love, and that's what they promote. A song, maybe a podcast, a moment. So their sonic identity could celebrate the sense of this exploration or the sense of discovery. A sound that says you're about to discover something awesome. You know, every time you hear it, you're like, oh, I'm in the discovery section of Spotify. Or, oh, I've just opened up the podcast section. These little audio cues give us confidence on the app. They get us to build trust with the brand. And yet we're missing them in every opportunity here. So let me take you through the process of how we would tackle this problem. Maybe someone at Spotify will see this one day, but most likely not. So I would love for you to enjoy me taking you through the process of how we do this with Spotify, and then eventually you can apply this to your own brand as well, or your own work, whatever it is that you do for a career. So the sonic strategy. First, we build the strategy. We don't go straight into music. We build the strategy and define the brand's core values. So curiosity, connection, creativity, that's a few that I would put towards Spotify. And then map out how those values sound. Like, how does curious sound in terms of tone, texture, tempo, energy? And what does connection sound like? What does creativity sound like? What does discovery sound like? And there's a whole different way that we can approach all of those questions, but really we're thinking about the strategy, creatively about the strategy. And how do we connect these core values together? Sound, you know, if I played you a heavy metal track or some heavy rock music, that's going to give you very different tones and textures that might give a different energy. Does heavy metal and rock music inspire curiosity or connection? To some people, maybe yes, but to some people, maybe no. And we want to create that journey for as many people as possible, for specifically the users of Spotify, who are very different users and maybe different personalities to Apple Music, for example. This gives us the best DNA of the brand to create everything else consistently. And that moves us on to stage 2. We create something called the Soundboard, which is basically a mood board for music. Creative name, I know what you're thinking. Most brands never actually think about creating an audio guideline document, and that's what this is. This sits alongside your audio guidelines so that anybody using sound gets sent audio guidelines, this soundboard, and they know how the brand should sound. So they shouldn't be making any critical. Let's use the rock example, right? Let's say that a brand, all the guidelines point towards classical music and a certain type of classical music with a certain type of energy. As an employee or a creative or an editor, you're not going to choose heavy metal music when the instruction you've been given is classical music. But most brands don't put this guide into place. So you get the classical music and you get the rock music all being chosen. It's very confusing as a user of that brand. And it becomes the guide, in this case, for Spotify's sonic world, which then leads us on to step 3, the brand track. Now we turn that DNA into a full song. And this has many different energies, different sections that we think will cover every use for Spotify. It's the heart of the identity where all the emotion lies. And every sonic logo or app sound, campaign on social media or on TV, maybe even at an event out in the real world, we pull it from that brand track. And that gives us consistency, and it ties everything together, which makes Spotify recognizable anywhere in any type of use at any touch point. Let's have a play with the sonic logo. So then we can craft a sonic logo. We can pull that out of the main song that we create, and it feels alive and dynamic, and more importantly, connects back to the DNA of the brand. And maybe it evolves. So different versions for different moods, different playlists, seasons, times of the year. I'm recording this and we're coming up to Christmas. Like, what could the sonic logo, which is the jingle or the audio identity, the mnemonic it's also called as well. How could that be relevant for Christmas time, as an example? And it could even react to users' behavior. We're moving into a time now where we have all these different technologies that allow us to interact with different times in the day or different actions or different moods, different personalities, and we can slowly tie this experience to individual users. So how could the sonic logo flex to those different users? And like an adaptive logo think of it like an adaptive logo that changes with what you're listening to. It changes to what you're doing in that moment. A podcast might be a very different sonic logo to choosing a playlist. But they might be very different, but you know that they come from the same place. And more importantly, you know it's Spotify. Let's think about some interactive sounds as well. There's a chance with modern technology like AirPods to have spatial sound. So how can the sound of Spotify interact with us in a very real way? Sounds for opening the app or liking a track or adding it to a playlist, following a playlist. They could use spatial sound so that actions feel like they're around you. They enhance the world that you're in and not just simply in front of you. And every sound could feel fluid, natural, satisfying, and more importantly, not intrusive into your world. That's the skill set here, is to how do we enhance an experience without interrupting an experience. So multi-platform integration, where can we actually use this? Well, Spotify lives everywhere now. It's on phones, laptops, TVs, Alexa speakers, in your car. The sound designer has to adapt to these different scenarios, but still stay consistent. And imagine the sonic logo subtly shifting between devices, home speakers, AirPods in the car. Like, how can that experience be different for every interaction? Social and branding touch points. So social media. Now let's think about rolling this out across marketing. Branded audio stings before their video content. Like, imagine the first 2 seconds, you hear a little audio sting, like the sonic logo or a 2-second clip, just behind the video subtly that's there, but it you make the acknowledgement that it's Spotify. How can we integrate that into content? Those little moments will stop us in our tracks. If we trust Spotify and we enjoy the content Spotify puts out into the world, when I'm just scrolling in an evening and I hear that sound that I recognize, I'm more likely to stop on it. And that's been scientifically proven. It's been studied. It's all to do with what we recognize and the emotions we feel as humans. We're tapping into that with every interaction. Consistent music cues in campaigns. Let's not start using loads of stock music across every different type of content. Let's start using Spotify's own music for everything that we do. And even their podcast intros could carry that same sonic DNA. Every podcast that's on Spotify could start with the podcast Spotify sound. And then just like when we open up Netflix, we know that's like a movie platform. How could we do the same thing for Spotify? And the result, if they get this right, is a seamless sonic journey between every single element. So suddenly Spotify wouldn't just play sound. It wouldn't be the go-to place that you just play sound. They'd also be the sound that you're experiencing at the same time. And you'd hear their brand identity before you even see the logo on your screen. There's actually a study that shows that the brain can actually process the emotion of sound 100 million times faster than processing the emotion of visuals. That's true if you want to go look it up. It's insane, the power of sound. And when I say at the beginning about unlocking value with the power of sound that only sound can unlock, that's what I mean. It would make every user journey feel intentional, cohesive, and most importantly, premium. Like, brands currently doing this are acknowledged as premium brands. So just like their visual design, but in audio form. And those two things should live together. So let's think big picture as a final point. This is how brands become iconic with sound. Think about McDonald's, iconic brand. Arguably, most people know the sound more than the colors, or at least equal to, right? If I said to you, what does McDonald's make you think of? You'd maybe say golden arches, or you may be thinking ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Like, it can sit at that level of legendary status. Every scroll, every swipe, every click feels part of a bigger story and part of a journey that you're familiar with and trust. Or with Spotify, it's the discovery through sound, right? You're discovering new music. You're also discovering new experiences. Like, imagine if we all had an update where Spotify started having very subtle sounds in their app experience. I'd be really excited about it. And if it's done well, most people, it might be subliminal. But after a while, it starts to become synonymous with the brand. And that, to me, is a journey worth hearing. So I hope you've found that interesting as just a thought experiment. That's how we would personally tackle this project. It's how we tackle most of our projects with brands. So if you do work with a brand, maybe you work with an agency that works with brands or content, and you're exploring how you can use sound differently and maybe move away from stock library music and create a bit more strategy. We've got many videos on this, and my favorite one at the minute that seems to be getting the best reaction is that sound that can be bespoke made for you can actually save you money. It feels expensive up front, but actually with stock music, you're paying for your staff to spend a whole day searching through library music to choose maybe the right song that isn't involving any brand guidelines, audio brand guidelines at all, and most likely it's going to get rejected by the client at some point. We've all felt that pain, and we're paying for our staff to go through that process, then edit it, and you're paying for those staff members. That's coming out of the budget. So why do we not start thinking about strategic use of music a lot more? And hopefully from today, you've seen the benefits way beyond than just making a song that we can use over and over again. There's so many different use cases, and that's where we come in as professionals and experts in this field. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Look forward to getting you involved in more videos in the future. Give us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever platform you're watching this on. And more importantly, if you want us to have a discussion around your project and apply this kind of thinking to it, get in touch and we can get a call booked in. Won't cost you a thing, and maybe we'll both learn something. That seems like a good deal to me. All right, see you soon. Bye.